I saw a Twitter article. I don't know who chooses what becomes important in the world of Twitter. I obviously know it's nobody of any significance because the topics are absolute bullshit fluff. It's clearly like the same people who run the news. They're like, we need to have a certain amount of like weather, we need to have a certain amount of sex, we need to have a certain amount of babies, we need a certain amount of sports, we need a certain amount of blah, 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 like just the journalism big six, you know? And it's clearly not about like what's really the most pressing things at a global time. It's about like, what are we willing to show you? We can't give you too much at once. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you a couple of the highlights, bury in some of that fluff. You're gonna, some of the news will slip away. And I know that because I can go out of my way to follow certain trends on Twitter and it will only show those to me in the side. And the thing is, it still puts it in the same place that it made you believe you were kind of getting a general digest of things, but seems to not be the case because you are creating your own echo chamber. You are kind of creating your own newspaper that only reports stories you want to read. So is that really the news at that point? I don't think it is. I think the news is going to be stuff, whether you want to hear it or not. Here's the news of the world. It's happening outside your door. Don't you feel better prepared to leave your house today, as opposed to, don't worry about it, we can keep you entertained, we will appeal to, we will pander to, we will tell you what you want to hear. So when you do go out into the real world, you will be very confused to find out not everyone feels how you do. Not everyone's on the same page as you. And that's because you've now created this kind of bubble for yourself where you only interacted with people who were like you and who shared an opinion like you. And it's very easy to block people, and it's very easy to just cater only to the people that have something that you stand to gain something from, right? Or you want to stay on their good graces because you're like, yeah, see, they're doing that person's attractive or successful and they share my opinion. Therefore, they're a good ally to have because the two of us, now we make it like a stronger appearance for the argument. And mind you, that's an effective tool. That works. Having people who have things that you look up to, having people that you aspire to be like, that is a good way of persuading people. Lying to them, twisting things, I don't think so. I think that people will still watch you, they will still observe you, and they will wonder, how did you get to where you got, and how can I get to where you are now? And if you are misrepresenting it and you are lying about it, maybe that's your way of protecting the individual ladder that you climbed. You don't want too many people climbing that ladder because maybe it'll all come crashing down. But to lie to them, to misrepresent things, there's something just so cowardly and deceptive and inauthentic about all of that, that if you go out into social media, let's say, and you pretend to be super vulnerable, but in reality, what you're doing is you're marketing a vulnerability that is appealing to people, the kind of vulnerability that people like, the kind that's digestible, the kind that they can handle, that they don't have to sit too uncomfortably with and really deal with like all the nuance of and the fallout of it. There's also the safety of doing that online because you don't have to be as accountable as you would have to be to people who see you every day. In the online world, you can kind of just say things and do things and not say other things, so that way through obfuscation and through omission, people will kind of like, oh, you haven't posted in a while, maybe it's because you're busy. And during that time frame, since they can't ask you, they don't have a right to ask you, what were you doing with every minute of that? Logically, you could be doing anything with that. So it kind of stands to, are you doing what you're saying you're doing? Are you hustling? Are you out there grinding? Like, what are you doing versus what are you showing? Now, trying to run that back a little bit, that kind of comes back to the idea of just who you put out to other people, the type of person that you choose to present. And that brings me all the way back to what I actually wanted to talk about. It took me a while. I had to like run my tangents back. Bring me back to Twitter. Twitter posted a stupid article about, I guess he was like Bond, yeah? He was one of the Bonds for a while. Daniel Craig. I remember because he had the gay swimsuit. Yeah, because he came out of the water in the gay swimsuit. Now that I think of it, everyone was like, that's too gay at the time. Because it was like a bikini brief. And he came up out the water all sexy, kind of sexy, I guess. Like in like a teacher way. He was like kind of sexy. And came about. Anyway, the article was that he prefers to be at gay bars. And it's like, first of all, why? This isn't interesting. How is this news? Like, ooh, Daniel Craig goes to gay bars. Unless he's fucking the dudes there, unless he's like interacting with the dudes in a sexual capacity, because gay actually has to do with sexuality. I don't know if people know that anymore. People may have forgotten that. I think people are so busy tying LGBTQIA2 plus do. They're like trying to rebrand all those things, and they're trying to make it synonymous with queer, and I'm noticing queer is just being re-synonymous with its original definition of just weird, just bizarre. So now it's like, are you just calling all gay people weird and bizarre because that's offensive and annoying? Like, that's not where we were going with any of this. Y'all who hijacked on later decided like, yeah, we're reclaiming queer. I'm like, as someone who is called queer and who understands how it internally does not, it's not cohesive to having a strong sense of self. Let me put it that way. Saying I am other, I am ubiquitous, I don't know what I am. I don't think that brings you a strong anchor. There is the ego, the superego, and the id. And I believe that without trying to say exactly how they like, how one will deviate the other and blah, 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 because that's really not my exact thing. Like, that's not my expertise. But I do know that like at certain times in life, I've been able to take in information that I would not have been able to take in. It's not just because I was dumber. It was because my ego could not take that information. Like, I couldn't accommodate it into my worldview. It would have made me feel too bad about myself in comparison to others, to where I had to just, nope. It's the kind of thing that I think this is a very common one. It's what we do to like celebrities and to attractive people, or people we deem attractive, right? Because you have to give that power and that respect in your head first. But what we do is we tend to diminish what they do in order to validate what we do, right? Like that whole, oh, because you're good looking, that means you must spend so much time only worrying about yourself, and therefore that means you don't work as hard as I work. You don't care about others as much as I care about others. You don't, because your aim is over there, your aim can't be here, your aim can't be here. And because my aim's over here, my priorities are different than yours. One of us has to be better, one of us has to be worse. And I know that I'm not a bad person, so it must be you. So now I'm gonna look for reasons why you're wrong and why you're bad. And it's a hard thing to deal with, yeah? It takes introspection, and it takes like keeping it really real with yourself. I think that only through reflection, self-reflection, and through not dramatic isolation, but through meditative isolation, and maybe through sabbatical isolation. I think quarantine has been an incredibly supportive time for everyone to, if they are afforded that based on their circumstance, to kind of, have some introspective time. I think it's been more than just a little bit of a blessing. It's been a gift, a blessing. It's been just life-changing. Don't mind me. I realize it looks like I'm disassociating. Let's get back to what I was talking about with Daniel Craig, yeah? whole thing was he was saying he's more comfortable in gay bars. I think it's stupid. This shouldn't be news. But of course, all the comments are like straight people like, oh my God, me too. Me too. I'm straight. I bring my wife here. I bring my girlfriend here. I love it. It's so much easier. And sometimes I get a free drink. And it's like, you're a creep. Dude, you're a creep. Like, that's just what you are. You're a creep. You come into a space that's not about you. You try to pivot the whole atmosphere to make it about you. That's whack. Like, oh, no. Don't mind me. We're just going to be over here being straight, observing the zoo animals. Like, no, we're not like you. We just come here because we find you less threatening. Excuse me, sir. Like, if you know what it is to be a gay man, and not all of us have the same walk of life by any means, but a lot of us did grow up hearing the stories of Matthew Shepard and not hearing the stories of any good, positive outcomes for gay people. So a lot of us really did have to grow up with a defensive chip on our shoulder. Is that fair? I don't think it is, but historically, something about protecting yourself and the need to have your guard up. For people developing, it's not cool. It's not helpful. But in terms of building an empathetic person who can understand, not everyone outwardly expresses their fears or outwardly expresses their discomfort, I can easily empathize, and I'm very sensitive to other people, and I read body language, and I take in any kind of information you give. I'm assessing it, I'm scanning for it, I've got my little Dragon Ball Z sensor, and I am just going through it. But the idea that straight people come to gay bars, take up the space, the price of things goes up, there's cover at the door, there's people who are waiting outside to get in to a gay bar because there's so many straight people in there. And I personally this is not like a far-fetched story. I've been in a few bar fights, yeah. So I realize it takes two to tango. At a certain point, you have to look at yourself. You have to be like, am I maybe calling some of this to me? And the answer was yes. I hope to believe I have removed that chip. Like, my whole demeanor, my presence is so different. My sense of self-confidence and my own deservingness to be in a space commands different energy to me, which is great. But at the same time, I'm not immune from other people. Like, you can't reason with everyone. And so, for example, on my 30th birthday, which I know, right? My 30th birthday was in July. No, it wasn't. Don't steal my identity. And I went out with some friends to the gay bar in my town, yeah? I had just moved here. Very exciting. We went to the gay bar, and there was a woman this was a bar that has a stripper pole, and it's really fun because anyone can just like get on it. So it's cool, right? I'm like, yeah, men dancing, I love that. Like, as a guy who dances, like, I love to see it. I love that men can feel comfortable expressing themselves. But in terms of everybody doing it, it's like you see a lot of variety of talent. Some good, some unfortunate, some funny. There's a lot of people just taking their Snapchats, and it's like, that's whack. Like, you're making fun of somebody. Like, you're pretending like, yes, but like why are you posting very unflattering video with you giggling, and then like you turn the camera to yourself like, oh my God, like, cause like, anyway, let me digress. My brain is built to do too many things at one time. Let me get back to what we're trying to talk about, yeah. There's a chick on the stripper pole. She's doing her thing. Guys are hitting on her butt. I don't know why this is going on here. I'm not interested, but as soon as the song changes, I'm probably gonna hop up there. I'm not pushy by any means, by the way, because I realize like that's the worst way to show off, is to look like I need to show off. Like, dude, just be cool. So I was just like waiting for my turn organically, and this dude, because I'm standing there, this young dude, he's like, yeah, man, come on. Like, he hits her butt and he's telling me to do it, and I go, I'm good. Because I find this foolish, and mind you, I'm at a club, so I know that you can't just be like, I'm good, man. Like, I fully understand de-escalation, diffusing. So I say, with all these teeth, and I smile at him, and I say, I'm like, I'm good, man. And he did not like that I just wasn't doing what he was doing, that he didn't have influence over me. Like, he was actually bothered by that, which in its own way was like he must have looked up to me or wanted my approval. It was weird, right? So I just tell him, I'm like, no, I'm good. And he tells me, why? Why not? Like, she clearly wants you to hit her butt. Watch. And I go, I don't know her. And I don't want to, dude. I'm gay. And also, and then I drop that. I'm like, I'm 30 years old. Like, because I had to let him know because he looked maybe 22. So I'm not one of your school buddies. Maybe I look young. Thank you so much. But like, I'm just not, we're not peers in that way. So that was just silly to me. And the fact that he did not like that, stands back. I'm a dude. I fight. Like, I don't actively fight, but I read enough body language to know when somebody's about to swing on you for the most part, right? So he did like take a step back, but he didn't like cock a fist or nothing. He slapped me across the face. And I am just so stunned because not only did a man slap me, but it was a straight man, but it was a man who didn't know how to hit. It was so weak. It was like, is this a reality TV fight? Like, because you hit me in order to show people that you hit me, but you didn't want to even like do any damage. It was so weird. So it was like a slap, and then he like fell back, like ready to like get hit. And it was just so bonkers. So he sees that I don't react. I didn't take any damage. So he goes to hit me again. I grab him in both his right here, inner elbows. And I like kind of just tried to like walk him to the security. And I was like, this one right here. Yeah, him. Like, cause it was not me. And I was just so irritated that I'm like, do not kick me out. Like, I actually spent a lot of money planning a little get together before this. And like, come on. Like, I told the truth, all that. The security people, they heard my side. They heard his side. They lined up our stories and they were like, yeah, you're telling the truth. He said the same thing. And like, clearly I watched it go down. I was pretty much just seeing if you would tell the truth. And I'm like, well, yeah. So telling the truth makes you friends, and it goes a lot further than trying to just get your way, you know? So on that point, I was just saying, even in gay bars, like, I still get harassed by straight people even in gay bars. So the fact that Daniel Craig and all these people want to defend straight people in gay bars as an entitlement that they have, y'all don't see the problems you bring. Now, I'm about to drop maybe a false equivalence here, but it's a food for thought, so just think about it. If I, as a white man, I don't like claim that as an identity, but we all, right? We all could see some pigment. If I go to a traditionally black bar, like one that is known because they're like known for being a black bar, they want to play music that's for a certain demographic like that, like, come on, like, they don't have to say black only for people to know, you know? So if I am a white guy and I take a white girl there, and then we go there and we don't really want to like interact with people, but then at the same time we want to go on the dance floor and we want to be seen and we want to like dance with everybody else, am I supposed to expect everybody to be stoked to see me? That's the thing. It's not that I expect them to throw me out or welcome me in. It's just that, like, I'm kind of the invader, you know? Like, it's one of those times where you show some grace and some humility. When you say, maybe this isn't about me, maybe this isn't for me, doesn't mean it's against me. No. It just means some other people want to have some other thing that's for them, you know? Like, try not to make the whole world about you. Try not to make everything into a binary of you are or you aren't in. And for every time you're not in, it's like you're offended. Why am I excluded? Why am I out? It's not that you're out of all that. You're in so many cool, unique things yourself as a person that you don't have to always be looking, oh no, I don't have that, I don't have that, I'm not a part of this, I'm not a part of that. Like, if you can look at all the great traits about yourself and the great qualities, whatever they are, figure them out. That's like the really cool, exciting thing about having a human body vessel, is that it comes with a lot of really interesting stuff and you can do a lot more than you ever thought possible. So as corny as that is, I have come to appreciate my own body for the ways that I have not appreciated it in the past, and the ways I've totally taken it for granted, and the things that I have seen is so ugly and so flawed about myself. I now I'm not going to say they're my favorite things, but the appreciation for who I am and how I am the way I am, it's all a part of that, you know? So the main diatribe here was really not about the Twitter article itself. I suppose I don't need to have a focal point when making this video. Maybe it's easier for you to follow a narrative, but to me, this was more like a sermon. I'm just pontificating a little bit here. I appreciate you hearing me out. I'm realizing how much I stared at myself and that I may not have blinked very much during this. I'm sitting in my house. It's pretty still. My eyes aren't disrupted by much to where I gotta like bat these peepers at you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for entertaining my opinions on these things. I realize not everyone is receptive to everything, so thank you for even giving it this time. But we'll see what I have to cook up in the next... I'm not going to make any promises of frequency with this. Let's get out of here.